This is Joy News Prime with me, Samuel Kojo Brace. Coming up, this parents in the Tamale municipality are calling for the closure of schools to prevent the spread of measles. 16 sources say 16 districts have reported cases. Now, also in this bulletin, students of the Tamale Technical University boycott lectures in protest of 15% increase in fees. Details as the administration of the university says the basis for the protest is false. Also, ECG vendors call on the Electricity Company of Ghana to reconsider unilateral increase in minimum quota from 5,000 to 20,000 cedis. The vendors say this could lead to the collapse of their businesses. Now, some parents in the Tamale metropolis are calling for the closure of schools in that metropolis, as sources say 16 districts have recorded measles outbreak. Now, the minority in parliament say they are dissatisfied with the explanation that the vaccine shortage challenge will be fixed in 3 weeks. Now, the health minister, Kweku Agyemang-Menu, Thursday told Parliament that more than $6 million doses of $1 million has been paid to UNICEF to deliver vaccines as the shortage lingers on. Now, this comes on the heels of an earlier assurance by the Director General of Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kuma Abuaje, that the country will take delivery of some vaccines in the next 2 weeks. Now, the minister says the country should expect to take delivery in the next 3 weeks. Take a listen.
We have had some vaccine shortages in the country since the last quarter of 2022. The vaccines in short supply are BCG, measles, rubella, and oral polio vaccine, OPV. This shortage is nationwide. The recent shortage in vaccines for measles, as regrettably as it is symptomatic of the steady global decline in measles vaccination since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. And permit me to quote from a WHO recent publication on the subject that puts the challenge we are dealing with into perspective. And I will quote: measles vaccination coverage has steadily declined since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2021, a record high of nearly 40 million children missed a measles vaccine dose. 25 million children missed their first dose, and an additional 14.7 million children missed their second dose.
Now, neurosurgeons and the Pediatric Society of Ghana are concerned about the vaccine shortage for children. Now, 2 weeks, two crucial vaccines have been unavailable at the Adaraka Vaccination Center for almost a month now. Mothers who came there to vaccinate their children were turned away because there were no vaccines there. Now, this has become so crucial that pediatrics are now complaining. Neurosurgeon Dr. Hadi Abdallah and Head of Pediatrics and Child Health at the Tamale Teaching Hospital, Professor Al-Hassan Abdul Mumin, have been responding to why their centers are concerned about the lack of vaccines for children.
This shortage didn't just happen this month or a month ago. It's been more than 1 year since we started experiencing these shortages. So it means that for most of the children who were born during this period since 2022, they are likely to have missed so many of these vaccines that are very crucial to their survival during the first few years of life. And the situation is quite bad because, for instance, in the northern region, there is no district that has not recorded maybe an outbreak of measles. So all the 16 districts that we have in northern regions have had cases of measles. If it's just the fever and the rash, generally we are able to manage them as home cases. So you can send them home and then they will be managed at home. But if they develop complications like the breathing problems, then they need to be in the hospital. And this is the key complication that can lead to deaths in children that have measles. And that is why this is a very big problem for, all of us as a country.
The long-term effect of some of these infections, especially measles and rubella, could have an impact on the babies that will be born later on, because some of these conditions eventually could affect the development of the child's brain or the central nervous system, and in some cases, the peripheral nervous system as well. So these children could be born with all kinds of brain abnormalities. And we know what pertains in northern Nigeria and some Islamic countries where we've had some Muslim clerics advising against vaccination, and we know polio is still not, has not been eradicated in those countries, and we've seen the impact in those countries. You know, in their case, they didn't want to do it, but in our case, we have Ghanaians who are willing to have their babies vaccinated. And so as a country, if we can't get the vaccines, it's unfortunate.
Already, the spike in cases in the Tamale Northern Regional Capital have got parent consent. They've been sharing their concerns with Joy News. Now, Yerafa of our affiliate radio station there is reporting number of cases in the Northern Region continues to increase. He joins us via Zoom now with more details. Grateful that you could join us here. Now, we understand you've been studying what has been happening there. How many districts have recorded cases so far, and what are their numbers?
All right, so we know that all 16 metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies in the northern region have now recorded suspected cases of measles. Our checks across the region indicates that the cases are in dozens. In some districts, we have actually heard, or we are told that suspected cases have hit 100 plus, and health officials in these hospitals are very worried about the situation. They still are calling on government to fast-track efforts to get these vaccines into the country for the hospitals to be able to handle the cases. They fear it could get worse. They fear we could start losing lives. Kojo, for instance, in the Karaga district, we are told that at least 85 suspected cases were recorded between January and February alone. But the health directorate there told us some 5 of the suspected cases actually turned out positive. We know, for instance, in the Bimbala municipality, that's the Nanumba North municipality, they've also recorded cases. In fact, I spoke to one man there who said he lost his child and he suspects it is actually measles, even though the hospital hasn't been able to confirm the cause of the death. But he says that his child was suffering all these symptoms, the flu, the severe fever, the rashes, and the running stomach. And so he believes that it likely was measles that caused the death of his child.
What have residents been saying about this development then?
Residents are worried about the situation, especially for parents who have their wards in schools. You know that these senior high schools just reopened, especially for the first years. And for parents whose wards are just reporting to school, they are concerned that the school environment could be a place for the spread of the virus. And so most of them are calling on government to close down the schools if the vaccines cannot be secured immediately. They think that if the vaccines are secured immediately, there may not be the need for the closure of the schools. But if the vaccines are not secured immediately, government should be able or should be closing down the schools to ensure that the virus doesn't spread in senior high schools in the region.
Okay, grateful to you. Now, Professor Al-Hassan Abdul Mumin is consulting pediatrician at the Tamale Teaching Hospital and the Northern Region Chairman of the Pediatric Society of Ghana. He also joins us via Zoom now for a conversation on this. Prof, I'm grateful that you could join us here. Have there been reported cases of death from measles in that part of the country?
Thank you so much, and good evening to your viewers and the general public as well. We have had, several cases that required admission into the hospital. So these are the severe type of measles, as we would call them. And out of these conditions, we have a number of suspected deaths. In that, some of this, so we have 5 recorded deaths within the Tamale Teaching Hospital since November that had all the features of measles. So your reporter, Yunus, just talked about the children having fever, having the rash. These are the cardinal features for the children that have measles. So they would have fever, they would have the general rash over the whole body, and then they may develop complications. So if they do develop those complications, it may be related to the eye, it may be related to running, diarrhea, and getting fluid loss in their bodies, or they may develop pneumonia, which is having difficulty in breathing, fast breathing, and needing supplemental oxygen supply. So these cases we admit to the hospital, and out of them, we've had 5 suspected that died during this period. The reason why they are suspected is just because after you have the clinical features that we have talked about, you still need a laboratory test to confirm that this is a case of confirmed measles. And that has been a challenge since we started experiencing this outbreak. And that's why they remain suspected, but we have suspected this.
And you said something happened as far back as December, right?
November. So for the teaching hospital, we recorded our first cases in November 2020.
No, I mean the death. When did we record?
So
those
the
deaths?
first ones, in December up to now, we've had like 5 deaths.
Okay, but we've not checked from the laboratory even since December to confirm that they were measles related. We can only say suspected.
No, thank you so much. So we do regular, follow-ups, because these samples are sent to a central laboratory in Accra, and once the testing is done, it's sent through a software, and our public health team in the hospital and all other facilities actually check through the software to be able to tell which results have come back. Since November, we've only had 13% of the tests that we have sent returning. And the rest are still, results are not ready. So because of that, you then have to depend on the clinical features that those children or other patients present with to make a diagnosis.
Now, give us a picture, but you probably have more details. Per what is available to you, what is the picture looking like in the northern region?
Well, so, what Yunus was talking about just confirms that actually we have these cases in their numbers within the community. So generally what we would see in the hospital would be the tip of the iceberg, because that then means that these are the ones that develop severe complications and require to be seen in the hospital. Otherwise, for many families, they may not even bother to come to hospital if it was just a fever and a rash. But if the children start running diarrhea, children easily lose so much fluid when they run diarrhea. If they started coughing and the cough becomes severe, they will require support in the hospital, and they will then get into the hospital. So every day we see, more than 10, or with up to 10 in our outpatients clinic. And within the wards, we admit close to 14. So currently we have up to 14 cases admitted in the Tamale Teaching Hospital alone. Some requiring oxygen, others because they have other complications that you cannot send home. You have to keep them in the hospital. Then the challenge then is that for many of these cases, now we have to admit them to a general pediatric ward because the infectious disease center is not big enough to contain all cases. Then you then put the other patients at risk, those who do not have measles, but for one reason or the other have not had their vaccines completed. They then are also susceptible to having the infection within 10, 14 days, and they may go home and come back with measles. So it becomes then a perpetual, some virtual vicious cycle of, getting exposed, you are not getting the vaccine, you go home and come back within 2 to 3 weeks with measles. So that is a big problem.
So if that's the case, what measures are you then implementing to ensure you're able to contain the spread?
So the best way out of this situation is to get the vaccines and start vaccinating all those who are eligible. Because you are allowed during outbreak situation to even vaccinate children who are not up to the 9 months. Because measles vaccination in this country starts at 9 months, and then we give a second dose at 18 months. But when you are in an outbreak situation, you are allowed to actually vaccinate below 9 months, so maybe between 6 and 9 months. And mind you, we have seen cases as young as 3 weeks admitted to the hospital with, very clear features of measles. But then if we had the vaccines today, and then the healthcare system, the healthcare workers and the public health team start to work, we could vaccinate all those that require are eligible for vaccination, and do catch up for those who missed during the time that the vaccines were not there.
So, Prof, in absence of the vaccine, what are you doing?
So now that the vaccines are not there, for us in the hospital, we receive the cases after they have started. We receive patients after they have started having the symptoms. So we then have to manage them as cases of measles, to treat them based on the complications that they have. But what we recommend that can be done for those, for families of children, especially those under 5 years, or those who are still under 2 years who are breastfeeding, that the parents should continue to breastfeed. It's important for exclusive breastfeeding because when mothers breastfeed their young ones, actually the measles antibodies that protect the children from infection pass through the breast milk to is passed on to the infants, and that boosts their immunity and make sure that even if they get the infection, the risk of developing complications are lower. We also need to observe hygiene practices because it's so important. If this infection, measles, is very contagious. That even if they pass a child through a corridor that has a disease and then you have stayed within that place, you can get it. So we are encouraging that. At least we should have take our hand hygiene practices very serious, as we used to do during the COVID-19 period. And make sure that when our children have the rashes and they have the fever, they should stay at home. So maybe regarding the school situation, the thing that parents can do is that if your child has fever and has rash, they should rather stay at home instead of going to the school and then getting other children infected.
Okay. Grateful to you, Professor, for joining us, Professor Al-Hassan Abdul Mumin there. Now, still staying in Tamale, because the student of the Tamale Technical University Friday boycotted lectures to protest a 15% increment in fees. Now, the student claimed the increment was effected without discussing it with the Student Representative Council, describing it as illegal.
Speaking on behalf of the students, Majority Leader for the Students Representative Council, Abdul Razak Aziz, explained that aside from what they describe as illegal fees, the institution does not provide some basic amenities.
To correct that, we are not demonstrating, we are only boycotting classes, or we are boycotting lectures. In a reason attached to it, yesterday night we had a SRC parliamentary sittings, and our SRC chemist gave us the state of SRC address. He made mention in his speech, or in his address, that management or council for this institution have increased school fees by 15%, which he, as the SRC president, did not take part in that decision making. And we see that it's very illegal because per the schedule or the statute of the school itself, it said that in council, SRC representatives should represent students, the entire student body in decision making body for the school. And therefore, our SRC president was not involved. And we cannot go about that. We are not accepting that. So we want the VC to explain to us the reason why there have been increment of the 15% of school fees and the reason why our SRC representative was not included in the decision making. And more to add, our institution, there's no internet connectivity. Students are not able to access any internet connectivity on campus. No washrooms on campus. With furniture, students have been standing in lecture halls to attend lectures. It's a side time we have to come out and we demand for the breakdown of our school fees we have been paying for.
The spokesperson of the university, Osman Mubarak, denied the alleged 15% increase in fees and assured that management will settle the misunderstanding to promote proper teaching and learning.
Legitimate tool they want to employ. They have different tools to apply, and one of them is to boycott lectures. One of them is to sit down. One of them not to attend lectures. But what we are requesting them, it is their fundamental human rights to boycott. We are requesting them to rescind their decision, give management time to consider their expectation, so that at the end of the day, management will take a decision in the interest of the school, in the interest of the students, in the interest of the community. We are not doing anything to harm them. They are our brothers, they are our sisters, they are our kids, they are our aunties. So what is key is that the university should come out with the best policy, so that at the end of the day, our students can match any other student in this country. We are in a competitive environment, so we must start doing things right as a technical university. We are no more a technical polytechnic, so our students should appreciate the fact that things have changed. We have to up the game to meet the standard. That is what I want to tell our students. They should be measured in their demonstration. They should be measured in their utterances, so that at the end of the day, it's give and take. We give them and they take. We also give them and we also take.
So Mubarak Osman is public director of the university. He joins us via Zoom now. Mubarak, I heard you say that there hasn't been any increment, any 15% increment in the fees. If so, why are the students demonstrating or alleging that there's been an increment in there? What is really the issue? So kindly unmute so we can follow what you're telling us here. Mubarak, kindly unmute for us so we can follow what you're telling us.
Are you with me now?
I'm with you, sir, yes. I can hear you now. So I'm trying to find out from you. I heard you say that there hasn't been any 15% increment in the fees, but the students are also demonstrating, citing that particular reason. So if you say there hasn't been any 15% increment, how much have you increased their fees by? And that is pushing them to demonstrate. All right, so students of the Tamale Teaching University at Friday boycotted lectures in protest of a 15% increment in fees. They allege that that decision was taken outside of the Student Representative Council. They believe that once the university rules allow the management to take decisions with the SRC present, and this time they didn't, it meant that the university tried to sidestep them, and that's what they disagree with. Mubarak Osman is Director of Public Affairs at the Tamale Teaching Technical University, and he joins us on the phone now. So I'm grateful once again. I'm trying to find out from you, if you say, because I heard you say that there hasn't been any 15% increment, how much have you increased their fees by? All right, so we're trying to get Mubarak Osman, who is the Director of Public Affairs of the university, to try and understand why the university is saying one thing and the students are also saying one thing. What is really the issue? What has been the increment that is causing the student to demonstrate. Now, he, in an earlier interview, say that the students should acknowledge that the status of the university has changed from a polytechnic into a technical university. But what does that really mean? Mr. Mubarak, I'm grateful that you're joining us again. If you say that the status of the university has changed, and therefore the students should understand, how much have you increased their fees, and you are encouraging them to understand that it's because of the status change, and that's why they need to acknowledge the increment?
First of all, I will have to deal with the issue of increment, whether we have indeed increased the fees or we have not increased the fees.
Good.
Before I will now move to the second question.
That's fine.
The major issue for their petition today was the increment of 15%. And I just want to put this particular conversation into the right perspective so that listeners and viewers will appreciate where we're coming from. On the 20th of December, the university received a letter from Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTEC, and the headline was removal of approval of fees and charges for 2022-2023 next year. So this letter, yesterday, the university academic board had a meeting, and as part of the agenda, the issue of the 15% increment was tabled for discussion. And at the meeting, a decision was taken in respect of whether to increase or not to increase. So at the end of the day, the decision was that even if the university increase, it should not cut across all programs. The university should consider programs with higher fees and programs with lower fees, and a criteria will be used to increase this particular decision. And the fact of the matter is, not only Samuel University that's implementing this directive from the Ministry of Education through GTEC. So this is not arbitrary, it's not whimsical, it is a decision that needs to be taken in line with the directive from GTEC.
But earlier, you said there hasn't been any increment, and you're calling for the student to calm down.
Practically, I said a decision was taken, right?
Yeah.
But practical as to how that 15% will be applied, that is yet to be decided. And I wish I could produce minutes of yesterday's meeting for you to appreciate what went into this particular decision.
Okay. So if I understand you, the decision has been taken that fees must be increased by 15%, which is coming from GTEC, but you have not started the implementation of that decision.
Exactly. It was just a meeting that was held yesterday at the academic board, and as to how it will be implemented, it has not been done yet. So we're surprised this morning the students came out and, in their numbers to present to us that we are increasing what they call it, the fee by 15%.
But per this meeting, when did the university say that you need to start implementing this?
Let me learn. In any case, if the university is increasing the fee by 15%, this is not something that we are doing outside the law. This is something that we have been given the opportunity to either do or not do.
I understand that point, but I'm asking, you said that the meeting only said that you have to implement this increment, but did it give any timeline when the increment should take effect?
That is why I said the details, we didn't even get to the details of the increment.
Okay.
We didn't get to the details of the increment. So this just some few minutes ago, I was having a conversation with the SRC, some SRC guys, and I was telling them that look, they should have come to us, inquire from the university.
Okay.
This is what we have heard, because the meeting closed at 4 o'clock yesterday, and this morning by 7:30, 8 o'clock, they were at the administration block requesting that they were not going to agree.
Okay.
They are not going to agree.
Okay, so do I get the impression that you're not going to charge them this new fees this semester?
Come again?
Do I get the impression that you're not charging them this new fees this semester?
we never said we are not going to charge them this new fees in this semester. We said we are just to come up with a modality to implement the 15% increment.
All right. Thank you very much. Abdul Mubarak is the Director of Public Affairs for the Tamale Technical University. Now, let's go to power and talk about the electricity. Vendors of ECG prepaid unit have expressed their dissatisfaction with the company's decision to unilaterally increase the minimum capital requirement for them to purchase their credit by more than 10-fold. Now, many of the vendors believe that the quota is too high and may force them out of business, leading to significant financial losses. The move has sparked widespread criticisms among vendors who are now calling on the ECG to consider its decision and find a more sustainable solution that takes into account the challenges faced by small businesses in the sector. Some of them spoke to my colleague, Blaise Soga, on the Pulse.
We've not been selling since morning. We don't have quota. It's 80,000 for, the 4 meters I'm running. We don't have the money to buy. And you see, another thing is, if I go borrow money, 80,000 to run this business, and then most of the customers in my area, they buy 10 CD, 20 CD. Yes, once in a while you get the big buyers. But you know what ECG made us believe from the beginning is they are taking the service to the consumer, to the doorstep, and that's where we, the vendors, came in. So we are just supposed to serve our community. So a community person that is buying 10 CD, another is buying 20, then I go for a loan of 80,000 or 100,000 to go and then be selling 10 CD, and I'm paying a huge interest. It's not business, but buying 20,000 means getting the 20,000 in full. And even our threshold, Momo, is 15,000. It's recently that they raised it to 15,000. Most vendors can't even get that amount of money for you. So you hustle, move from place to place. You go to the shopping malls, you go to different vendors. By the time you finish, that 400 and something that's supposed to be your commission, you've given it to vendors.
Let's assume somebody is living in my area. The person has to walk into the district office to go and buy quota because I'm out of it. I'm out of the work. The person has to pick a taxi or a trotro. In and out is going to cost the person 6 cities. The person is buying 10 cities. What is the sense in it? Meaning the person will not go. And what is going to, at the end of the day, is going to resolve illegal issues. I have nothing to do.
And to close now.
We have nothing to do. We just have to close it. Because what are you going to say? What are you going to do? Nothing. Our hands are tied up. Then we can't do anything. You just have to leave it. That's it. From the 1st of this month, the 20,000 quota is starting.
And it was just by
just that this letter was written on the 6th of February. Just 6th of February, saying that 1st of this month is starting. And that is it. We are even just fortunate that it started yesterday. So what is going on?
Just watching Journey's Prime. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. Now, the Minister for Defense, Dominic Neto, says President Akufo-Addo deserves commendation for securing the people of Ghana and preventing terrorist attack. Ghana has largely been praised and spared in the region where its neighbors have recorded such attacks. Now, speaking during the debate on the State of the Nation address, Dominic Neto said Ghanaians must appreciate the level of security being enjoyed.
The entire West Africa, particularly the big nations, are facing real security challenges. When I say real, extreme real security challenges, I can state that the nation that has been spared is Ghana. And so the president must be patted at his back. But he didn't try to do that for himself. All he did was to start from the border towns and let us know what he's doing to protect this country, especially making sure that our borders are safe. And so on page 13, the president starts to tell us that we are spending a lot of money keeping our security agencies at our borders to protect us. And rightly so, Mr. Speaker. 10 years ago, terrorism may not have been an issue to Ghana, Burkina Faso, or to even a few of the nations down south of West Africa, but today it is. If you cross the border to Burkina, and the major road between Paga and Ouaga, you may find it difficult to get about 10 cars moving on that major road that used to have more than 100 to 1,000 cars moving, because you do it at your own risk. Mr. Speaker, I know ministers in Burkina who want to come to Ghana and could have driven just 2 hours to Paga. But today they have to travel almost 2 days by aircraft to come to Ghana. We've taken security for granted because the security is good. And so, even when West Africa's security has deteriorated, Ghana has improved so much that 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, you needed security escort from Kintampo, particularly in the evening, to Tamale. Today, we don't do it.
Now, on his part, ranking on the Food and Agricultural Committee, Eric Opokum berated the president for falsifying records in his address.
As we speak, students who completed nursing training colleges and teacher training colleges in 2021, and they are at home today, government is owing them 8 months of their allowances. Mr. Speaker, those who completed in 2022 last year, government owes them 13 months. And those who are in their second year, none of them has been paid a penny as an allowance. So yes, you claim you have restored it, but the true state is that government is unable to pay. Mr. Speaker, government also mentioned illegal mining. The president mentioned illegal mining and lamented over the debilitating effects of illegal mining on our environment and on the water bodies. Mr. Speaker, we wanted the president to update this House on the state of the fight against illegal mining. Because you recall that in 2019, the president came to this House and the House approved 30 million Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, 300 billion cedis for the president to fight the canker of illegal mining in this country. Today, COCOBOD is reporting that illegal mining has affected 19,000 hectares of cocoa farms in this country.
Now, the World Health Organization and the Ministry of Health have begun processes to procure medications and equipment for the treatment of diabetes in primary health centers across the country. Now, the move is to help with the prevention and control of diabetes, as recent data shows a continuous increase in diabetes across the world. Speaking at the World Health Organization, Ministry of Health, spotlight on diabetes in Ghana, Health Minister Kojo Menu said the partnership will ease the global burden of diabetes by increasing access to affordable and quality diabetic healthcare by 2025. There's more in the following report.
The World Health Organization and the Ministry of Health collaboration is to put the spotlight on diabetes in Ghana under the theme Promoting Partnership for Diabetes Prevention and Control. The initiative aims at increasing access to diagnostic equipment and medication and also ensure that persons living with diabetes have access to equitable, comprehensive, affordable, quality care and treatment. According to data from the WHO, 24 million adults are living with diabetes in Africa. 2.4 million of them are Ghanaians. Speaking at the event, Health Minister Kojo Menu highlighted the importance of the partnership, saying the WHO Global Diabetes Compact will provide a framework for addressing the challenges and improve diabetes prevention.
Ghana signed on to the WHO Global Diabetes Compact in response to the increasing burden of diabetes around the world. The compact aims to reduce the global burden of diabetes by increasing access to affordable and quality care, promoting a more comprehensive approach to diabetes prevention and management, and addressing the social determinants of health that contribute to the diabetes epidemic.
Medical officer working on diabetes with the World Health Organization, Dr. Bianca Hemmingsen, explained the importance of the partnership.
The initiative of making this spotlight is actually an initiative led by the World Health Organization country office in Ghana and the Minister of Health. And it's really important to put diabetes on the agenda. It's very amazing when you're coming from the outside to see all this commitment you have in Ghana on NCDs. You have the Minister of Health talking about diabetes and putting it on the agenda, and you have a very large civil society who also supports the diabetes work. Already now, Ghana actually has quite a lot of very nice initiatives around Ghana on non-communicable diseases, including diabetes already. So I think Ghana is really good at prioritizing this global burden that we are facing.
President of the Ghana Diabetes Association, Esi Denyo, touched on the benefits of the initiative.
I think it's beautiful, and I think the best so far that has happened in the history of Ghana, that we are grabbing NCDs, especially diabetes, by the horn to tackle it on a strategic level, involving the World Health Organization, the Norwegian government, and the Ministry of Health.
Dr. Prebo Parango is a medical officer for the Intercountry Support Team for Eastern and Southern Africa at the World Health Organization.
A huge burden in terms of what we call the catastrophic health expenditure. So people spend a lot of money. In fact, we found out that in 2019, an average person with type 2 diabetes spends a significant proportion of his salary on medications. So we don't want a situation where somebody has to decide to make that decision on either buying food and providing education for children or to buy medicines. So this initiative is part of our steps in ensuring that access to diagnosis, treatment and care is available to the average Ghanaian.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Diabetes Association is advising Ghanaians to check their sugar and blood pressure frequently. Linda Darkos reports, read to you.
Now, family of Abubakar Shahid, 27-year-old, who was allegedly shot and killed by police in Wa municipality, are disputing claims by the police that the deceased was an armed robber. Now, on Friday morning, family members and close relations and some residents of Dondoli in Wa besieged the premises of the Regional Coordinating Council and the Wa Municipal Assembly, demanding that the police denounce the tag of an armed robber on the deceased and also his body released to them to be buried under strict Islamic tradition. Now, the police, however, insisted that it was not a matter of mistaken identity, but that the deceased was a member of an armed robbery gang they were pursuing. We're joining us, Upper West Regional correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
The shooting to death of 27-year-old Abubakar Shahid, allegedly by personnel from the anti-robbery squad of the Ghana Police Service in the Upper West region, has brought pain, anger, and uncontrollable tears on close family members, friends, and residents of Dondoli, a suburb of Wa, where he hails from. Abubakar Shahid was allegedly shot on his way to visit a friend who is of Fulani extraction on Wednesday night around Tembeleju in the Dego electoral area, where he met his untimely death. According to spokesperson of the family, Mohammed Tamimu, popularly known as Kalusha, who also doubles as an uncle to Shahid, the latter had a call from his friend asking him not to come because the area was so safe.
What happened that particular night, it was a Fulani man that called me. Malam, did you hear of Shahid? I said no. He called me that he's coming to pick me, and I heard guns out around our area. I decided to call him back to advise that he shouldn't come. Should the fire cease, then I can invite him to come. Lo and behold, Shahid picked to say that I'm already shot. I'm lying down there. Since then, I was calling him, I couldn't get him. Then I called the area assemblyman, that's the electoral area. He said, a good friend, that he should quickly rise there once I come. He went there and the police refused to grant him audience. We tried everything possible that we want to see our brother, the one who was shot, and they declined ensuring that where he's about until 10 o'clock when the police team called back to ask of his name. The next morning, I asked my younger brothers to check at the various hospitals to see if they may leave him there to Alice's rescue. Lo and behold, they went and found him at the regional hospital lying dead.
Now, the body of an unknown man has been found dead after floodwaters receded Wednesday evening in Kumasi. Now, the heavy rains flooded many communities in part of Greater Kumasi. The yet-to-be-identified deceased was found in a drainage near Abinchi around the Efiakobi Community Market. There's more in the following report.
Like minamu amepe me condemn kakra me de beto maduani bi adie nti minamu ame free asafo ameba nti minamu amehwehwe mu a ti medru Abinchi market Abinchi subrini ho fitafo no ho no aja amanfo se sa fitafo ne niam nti no ofa ho a ombe hawo nti minam gata ni mu ameba nti mitia bibi so nti na minim se like wo Emma me say twiko machi kakra me page ade kro na hwe enti me page aya na me hu se nipa ena me dimirika pie enti me dimirika pie na me hia blai na blai ba na me se bla obi awuda nso imu ana se da bia se aboa na awu na so de bla bla na me page na hwe ampa na me say sim na me page na bla na hwe na bla se no kre na je wura ha frefre ni nua no mo baaye na je won so bobo ni nua no mo amane enti aja ena mo frɛ panimu a ono so hwa ha ona eda mo anu wa ha ti wo ya na no so baaye na ja ono so beka ya mosomo abaya mosomo de abetui
na nipa no utimi hu nanim ahu say bia otmantema baabi
me pa cho me mentieli a hantimi minim.
Okay, so he is actually not from this community, but he comes here normally to pick up aluminiums and other things. So inside the river is where he actually stepped on something which he thought it was a snake, but getting closer he realized that it was a human being, and he actually called on residents here to come and see, and they also came around, they saw the person lying inside the Subin River. This man also here is the person who he first met. Then who hanum say obekache wo no mopin eko ho na den na mo ho ye
na kra wo fu mu frem no nti me baba hunu na woye nimpa nti woye nimpa na metu mano free a police for nti a police for na metwe se ka umumba mbahwe se deputy pa na afa no ho no a wabada hawo nti umu bibi say so ma police for ya way say nsunat me afọ bi abayina to her.
So he's saying that he reached out to the police after the guy narrated the story to him, and they are expecting the Ghana Police Service to be here any moment from now.
Enti ye nyina ya pon adwuma na ye gyina ase because ye ntimi nkɔ ba bia biom ene ye gyina ase twan se nsuo no bɛte na ya fa mu ne yakɔ enti be ho sabla no wonam ni sei ene eba nti wo ba na na obedu ase ne ye sei ye ma ne nkɔ ne nsuo na yi dudu nti won sai awase ye mfiri ono mo nkɔ enti wo tia sim na madam sei o ma ne nkɔ nti won sai na nsuo na honom na ehu enti won sai na obi kra otimi nke fa no wo so o hange adiem ba na ehu na wo soro nsuo no wo soro enti oso adiem se o hange na no antimi afa na ono besi na twa mu no ena oso won sai na honom na ehu wo se ye mfiri won kɔ na obekɔ ye be ho na se wate asim ti ye du ase no odu ase no kra ye hu ni biem eno ane se okɔ se okɔ ye de enim se okɔ kra ene se ye se ati afa no so a wo de afa nsuo no na okɔ no.
From Abinchi, my name is Nanabuachi Dankwayado for Joy News.
Well, the media's role in ensuring an enabling environment for growth of industry cannot be overemphasized. At a ceremony to honor and immediate past editor at the Daily Graphic, Kobi Asma, Director of Communication for the Melcom Group, Godwin Avenogbo, said the media has made Ghana an attractive destination for foreign investment thus contributing to the country's growth and development. He also believes journalists have played a huge role in maintaining Melcom's image as a leading shopping center. Melcom Care, the philanthropic arm of the Melcom Group, therefore decided to honor veteran journalist and immediate past editor Daily Graphic Kojo Asma as he retires from active duty after 33 years.
Described as democratic without the supportive role of professional journalism practitioners. Probably a convincing reason why the profession is held in very high esteem as the fourth estate of the realm. I need to emphasize that even for covering political activities, all these elements must be applied scrupulously by professional journalists as duty bearers of the national cause in our democratic dispensation, particularly at this time when elections will be held soon. Any deviation from these elements as our guide to unbiased service delivery can only serve the interests of detractors and ultimately a disservice to our nation. This country, Ghana, would enjoy peace, become a business-friendly destination for investors, willing to add to the nation's growth and development process if journalists perform their duties as true patriots in nation building. Ladies and gentlemen, the Melcom Group is happy to associate with the Graphic Communications Group in honoring the immediate past editor of the Daily Graphic, Mr. Kojo Asma, for his excellent contribution to the national development efforts.
And from Kokomlemle in Accra, we are grateful that you allowed us into your homes and offices. That's all in the bulletin. There's more on myjoyonline.com.